Your price is too high. I really need to think about this. This looks great, but I want to run this by my team. Objections are the bane of so many salespeople's existence. It is so frustrating to have gone through the entire sales process, feel like you're on track and like you're about to close the sale, and then a prospect throws an objection that you just didn't see coming your way. Now the question is, how do you deal with this? And there's really two components, right? There's what are you doing to avoid the objection in the first place? And then the other piece is what do you do when it comes? In this video, I'm going to show you 5 steps for overcoming objections like a sales rock star. Check it out. Number 1, avoid the objection in the first place. This is such an important component to overcoming objections, is just avoiding them in the first place. Because salespeople are always coming up to me and saying, Mark, how do I deal with this objection? Or what do I do when they say this? And my first response is always, well, what did you do to avoid the objection in the first place? It is so important that we're doing everything up front to avoid those objections from ever coming before we go to close the sale. So you take the objection of, I need to run this by my team. This is something that we should have known was coming. And if it's hitting us over the head like a 2x4 because we didn't see it coming, it means we made a mistake earlier on in the discovery process. Because we should have been asking about their decision-making process. We should have known that this was coming. And if it's surprising to us, it means that we made a mistake early on. So if you're getting some of the same objections over and over again, chances are it's because you weren't strong enough up front during the discovery conversation. Either the prospect isn't seeing enough value, and so they're just looking for a nice way to extricate themselves from the situation, or there was a question that you should have asked that would have helped to uncover this eventual objection. And so really doing everything to avoid objections is so key. And I have so many other videos on how to create value during that discovery process, but it's really important that you go through that if you're hearing the same objections over and over and over again. Number 2, pause. So here's the situation. You have gone through the process, you've done a really good job during the discovery process, and yet you still get an objection that you didn't necessarily see coming. Let's say the objection is, your price is really high. So the prospect says, your price is really high. Most salespeople in that moment are immediately going to just go into some verbal monologue and just throw up all over the prospect, defending their price, talking about why it's not high, why in fact it's actually low, or compared to everyone else it's low, whatever it is. This is exactly what we want to avoid, because this is what your prospect expects. Whenever you hear an objection at any point in the sales process, the first thing we want to do is pause. Take a breath and pause for a couple of seconds. Give yourself a moment to think through what you're going to do next. And what we never want to do is rush through it. You want to slow it down. So the prospect says, your price is much higher than I expected. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then respond. Number 3, soften. So the process so far is pause, take that 4-second pause, and then soften. And what soften means is that you never want to make the prospect feel like their objection is dumb or silly or frivolous. You want to show that you're accepting and you're acknowledging the objection. And so what we want to first do is soften whatever we're about to say. And what that means is we're going to basically compliment or flatter them or tell them something nice about what they just said. So the prospect says, your price is much higher than I expected. You pause and then you soften with something like, you know what, I really appreciate you sharing that. That's the soften. I really appreciate your sharing that. Or, you know what, That totally makes sense. This is, by the way, something that a lot of reps are going to say, whoa, 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 I don't want to do that because now it justifies the objection in the first place. But you know what? If they were feeling it and they were willing to say it, it means that we really want to acknowledge that what they're saying is valuable. That's why we're first softening. And so they're not going to feel defensive because we're not pushing back. We're not getting into an arm wrestling match where they're pushing one way and we're pushing the other. Instead, we're accepting it, we're acknowledging it, and we're softening it by just saying something basically nice to acknowledge what they've just said. Number 4, clarify. This is the step that most reps miss every single time. They hear an objection like, you know what, your price is much higher than I expected. And the rep immediately comes back with justifying and explaining and defending. We never want to do that. Instead, we want to clarify. Let's go through that process again. We're going to pause, and then we're going to soften with something like, totally fair. And then we're going to clarify with a question like, help me understand what prompted you to say that. And then what we're going to do is once they're giving that response, we're going to dig into that. So we don't want to just ask one clarifying question. We actually want to go deeper. So tell me a little bit more about that. Give me a little bit more clarity there. Unpack that for me. We really want to dig into that and basically bring the objection back into that discovery conversation. Because what it's likely to do is really clarify what they really care about. When a prospect says, your price is a lot more expensive than I expected, it doesn't necessarily mean that they want you to lower the price. They're simply stating something. We don't know why they're stating that. So when we clarify and dig, we're often going to get into other gems, other pieces of value. Number 5, address. So going through the whole process again, we pause, we soften with something like, I really appreciate you saying that. Then we clarify with a question like, help me understand what prompted you to say that. And then we're going to dig into that clarification process. And then let's say that throughout that process, we still get to the point of price is an issue. They simply can't pull together the budget right now. Which again, going back to the first point that I made, which is about avoiding the objection in the first place. If you had a thorough budget conversation, you probably wouldn't be here. But let's just say that you did have a budget conversation and they're still saying that the price is, now that they're really thinking it through, the price is really more than they can put together. And that's where we address it. And so we're simply going to address it by getting permission to throw some ideas at them. So when we go with addressing the particular objection, now we want to say something like, would it be okay if I just threw a couple of ideas at you? And they're almost always going to say yes. And this is where you can start to address the objection by sharing some ideas on how we might be able to pull out some pieces to lower the price. If it's really about price, then we're going to ultimately have to get down to wherever they need to be, right? So we're going to address it by getting that permission to throw out some ideas, and then we're going to have that conversation. Now, if you've done a really good job in the sales process, you're first going to be avoiding that objection in the first place. And then if you've done a great job throughout the objection process, usually you don't even have to go past the clarify stage. But let's just say for some reason you're still stuck with this objection. That's where you finally address it. By saying something like, can I throw some ideas at you? And now we're kind of in this brainstorm session, so you're not locked into whatever it is, but you're hopefully getting to a place where you can ultimately move forward. So there are the 5 steps for overcoming objections in sales like a rock star. And if you enjoyed this video, then I have an awesome free training on the data-driven approach to help you crush your sales goals. Just click right here to get registered instantly. Seriously, just click right here. This is an in-depth training that will help you close more sales at higher prices, all while generating more meetings. Also, if you got some value, please like this video below on YouTube and be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel by clicking my face, which should be right about here, to get access to a new video just like this one each week.